Hi, this is the Paul McGUIRE Report, and I'm Paul McGUIRE. On today's program, we're going to take a deep dive into the topic of neuropsychiatry, which is a fancy word for exploring the field of human psychiatry from a neurological or biochemical or bioelectrical manner. Now you say, well, what does it have to do with me or you? Well, what does it have to do with you? Absolutely everything. And that's what I want to take a deep dive with you about. I want us to go and travel out of the mediocre, travel out of the realm of so-called normal, which is not normal at all. Normal is, in fact, abnormal. So, this is the subject matter or thesis for today's program. There is a war inside of your mind. Now let's grasp that. Let's own that, because it's true. There is a war inside your mind. Unprotected brain battlefields and neuro vulnerability. Now that happens to be the title of an article that I have been reading in preparing my research for the Paul McGUIRE Report. It's an article written by Robert McCrae, and it's entitled "The War Inside Your Mind: Unprotected Brain Battlefields and Neurovulnerability." Well, we're gonna take a deep dive, but let's just start by dipping our toes into the water before we dive off the highest diving board, so to speak. Everything around us in our contemporary world is composed of electrical energy, electrical and magnetic energy. So, for example, who are you if we look at the basic components? Who are you? Who am I if we look at the basic components? Both of us and everybody we know and every situation we know and every object we know, like a tree, a dog, which is an animal, a house, a spaceship, or whatever, all of that that we see with our senses in the material, physical world reality. And mankind has been calling his reality is only the thing that you can see with your senses, taste, touch, vision, so on and so forth. But that's an inadequate view of physical reality. Physical reality, according to quantum physics, quantum mechanics, our physical world reality is approximately anywhere from 11 to 13 different dimensions. And I suspect that it really encompasses far more dimensions than a mere 11 to 13. I think the amount of potential dimensions is, well, infinite. Now, isn't it interesting that the Bible, which humanists reject, which the people of the Great Reset, I just was saying the word Great Reset, and I was thinking of what happens when I'm in the studio and I'm running to turn an instrument off or on, and I carelessly left out a power cord, and so I trip. Thank God I catch myself before I fall, but the power cord gets jolted out of the wall, and the power that it was powering goes down. Now, that means all the computers, the laptops, the cameras, and all the other stuff, it goes down. So it's not just a matter of plugging the plug back into the wall. Most of the time, depending upon what instrument I'm using, what laptop or computer I'm using, most of the time I have to reset the computer because it'll crash. And as you know, sometimes when your computer or even your cell phone crashes, you gotta reset it. Well, there is an intentionality among the world's globalist elite that goes all the way back to ancient Babylon. all the way back to the Sumerian cultures, to the ancient Egyptian cultures. There's all these principles of physics that caused our ancestors to be able to reconfigure reality. And they would often use a great reset as a model. But let's not forget that in all these illustrative, historic or prehistoric examples of a great reset, we have the reality that all of the technology that they had, and they had highly advanced technology. I mean, there's been all kinds of news stories in the last number of weeks regarding this massive pyramid that was discovered, and how this massive pyramid has these cylinder-like tubes that are, wide cylinder-like tubes, and they allow for the lowering of the pyramid or the raising of the pyramid. And there's been a flood of scientific examination regarding this, because the existence of this pyramid proves once again that whoever it was that settled the ancient super civilizations, whoever it was, I mean, some people think it's aliens or ETs, some people think it's fallen angel technologies, other people think that it's technology built by humans, and they believe that at one time humans possessed advanced knowledge, science, and technology, and we've lost it. So the point is, there has been a global conspiracy, if you will, to hide or conceal the truth regarding the pyramids. And these ancient pyramidical structures are clearly examples of technology. And the pyramid-shaped structures are some kind of Tesla technology transmitters of energy, and magnetic energy and electromagnetic frequency energy. So you have these strange, huge pyramids all over planet Earth. You have them placed on the depths of the Bahamas. If you go deep diving into the Bahamas, into the ocean where things disappear, boats disappear, planes disappear, the Bermuda Triangle, and then the Bahama region. And you see, if you're underwater with underwater video or underwater photography, you can see these massive pyramid structures looming out of the sand that's on the base of the ocean. There was clearly a super civilization there. You explore Russia in these remote places of Siberia, the Ukraine, and that entire region has all these ancient super civilization monolithic structures, pyramid structures and other structures that are so complicated that you couldn't have a human being build it. All across and hidden, conspicuously hidden in the Americas, not only South America, but North America, the United States, and Canada, and up into Greenland and places like that. You have all these secret hidden super civilization structures, like in the Grand Canyon. Whatever happened in the Grand Canyon, we're not being told the full truth of the matter, because in the Grand Canyon, you climb up those steep rock cliffs. There's the entrance of these enormous caves, and then when you go into the caves, there's all this super civilization like technology. And then you have the endless rumors and facts and photographs and myths and realities of the super civilizations that apparently existed where Antarctica is located now, or where the Arctic is located now. And you can see some of the videos and photographs of Antarctica, and you see these giant pyramid-like structures embedded in the ice and snow. You see in the Arctic region giant pyramid structures. And you hear the stories and you don't know how to process the information because the information's not openly discussed. But apparently Adolf Hitler, at one point in his career, along with the Nazi generals and Nazi scientists, apparently Hitler traveled with a large fleet of U-boats, which was the name of the German Nazi high-end submarines. And so Hitler traveled with these high-end submarines from Nazi Germany and Europe. He traveled underwater to Antarctica and supposedly constructed deep underground bases where he planned to hide out with the Nazi generals, the Nazi leaders, and those that were part of their genetic engineering experiment known as Lettisborn, where they were deliberately breeding blonde-haired, blue-eyed babies in an effort to repopulate Earth with a master race. And then we have other rumors and legends and supposedly CIA reports. You have to take all of this with grains of cynicism because you don't really know the facts. You're relying on somebody who's claiming to have seen something or whatever. But supposedly Hitler was smuggled, and the Nazi generals were smuggled out of Europe, and they traveled by submarine and ship, and they went to the nation of Argentina, and they ran the Nazi war and the Nazi economic machine from both Argentina, and in a clandestine manner they ran it from inside Nazi Germany, but it was secret, a deep secret. So you have all these things that don't make any sense when you try to arrive at a meaning for them, because what you learned in school is either sadly lacking or irrelevant. So that takes us to the present moment. We live in the middle of not only the Great Reset, we live in the middle of an awakening, a multidimensional awakening of science, of spirituality, of God, of God's Word. We live in the middle of an awakening where there's a rediscovery of the purpose, the benevolent purpose and the dangerous evil purpose, depending upon who's controlling it, of EMF, electromagnetic frequencies. And everything you see, like we said earlier, including me and including you, we are the product. We're in a sense like living holograms. We're the product of electromagnetic frequencies targeting and projecting into our reality at a specific numerical sequence. Every electromagnetic frequency has its own unique specific frequency. So you have a unique frequency. Every person you'll ever meet has a unique frequency. And so it's very, very important as human beings. You see, despite what the educational system and the media and the institution of science and many of the other humanistic institutions, despite what they are indoctrinating people to believe, The fact of the matter is that you and I come from some being or entity of infinite intelligence. That's why they call one of the theories of mankind's origins, they say that mankind is the product of intelligent design. Some kind of intelligence, some kind of super intelligence created mankind. You look at the complexity of mankind, the genetic codes, the EMF codes, the complexity of human beings. Now we've discovered, even though many of us knew it many, many years ago, including myself, I majored, for crying out loud. My dual majors at the University of Missouri was both in filmmaking and a brand new field in psychology called altered states of consciousness. And people thought I was like crazy for majoring in the altered states of consciousness. But here we are, fast forward into the future, and 40 years after I majored and studied altered state of consciousness, today altered states of consciousness and the entire field of consciousness is no longer an obscure, irrelevant field that people can poo-poo. It's everything. Every cutting-edge science, every cutting-edge technology like artificial intelligence, every biotechnology like transhumanism and the genetic code, everything has to do with either EMF, electromagnetic frequency, or consciousness. And people, if you choose to go into science or biology or many diverse spectrums of study and application, consciousness is one of the hottest, for lack of better words, consciousness is one of the hottest growth commodities in planet Earth and off planet Earth. We live in a time period where consciousness is everything, and if you don't understand consciousness, you don't understand anything. Now, I didn't choose the field of consciousness at the University of Missouri because I was so impeccably brilliant. I had read countless books on consciousness long before I got to the University of Missouri. So it was a no-brainer that I would be interested in consciousness. But I had no idea of knowing that consciousness and all kinds of technology and sciences that emanate from consciousness would be birthed in our reality in my lifetime and your lifetime. So where does all this take us? Because you see, prior to the breakthroughs in consciousness, prior to that, the scientific method essentially imposed a dictatorial domination on science and technology and declared a kind of false edict based on the horrible flaws of Darwin's theory of evolution, which is like a bad black and white cartoon program from the 50s. I mean, Darwin's theory of evolution is like an insane asylum on wheels. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's completely irrational, and it has no solid scientific documentation or proof that actually proves the validity of, yes, it's still called a theory, of Darwin's theory of evolution. So, here we are in a period of acceleration and acceleration into our future. And so all around us there's a scramble for power. And most of you know by now, at least I hope you know by now, that we live in a world which is secretly being controlled by a globalist elite, a relatively small percentage of the human race who control 99% of the wealth, the assets, the territory, and everything else. And this elite group, the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, this elite group is plotting and actively, right now as we speak, they are putting the machinery in place to take over the entire world. And that machinery revolves around electromagnetic frequencies, consciousness, biochip implants, nanochip implants, and a wireless one world economic system. Okay, you're listening to the Paul McGUIRE Report. I'm Paul McGUIRE. Be sure to visit paulmcguire.us and electronically follow this program on the social media page you listen to this program on or you watch, and make sure that you follow us and pray for us and, yes, support us. We are in a spiritual as well as an arriving kinetic war. There are things on the horizon in the United States, in Europe, in the Ukraine, and all around the world, in the horizons of many continents. We are on the precipice, may God have mercy on us, we're on the precipice of not only global economic collapse, but we're on the precipice of a global World War III. And the globalist elite, as they have done, and it's a matter of documentation, the globalist elite, as they have done in times past, are secretly financing, secretly maneuvering the nations and the peoples, maneuvering them to engage in World War III. So we need to stand and stop that. We need to take the words of Jesus Christ not as some stupid religious trip, but we need to take the words of Jesus Christ when he said, "Occupy until I come." That means Jesus Christ wants us by faith to use the supernatural power of God and to pull the supernatural power of God out of the invisible realm or the spiritual dimension and exercise the authority of Jesus Christ on the earth and cool things down and calm things down so the last day's soul harvest can be brought in, and so that God's ultimate plan and destiny for America and other nations, and your destiny and the destiny of your children and grandchildren, the destiny of this nation, the destiny of the gospel of Jesus Christ, that all of these destinies not only converge, but they become what God created them to become before the beginning of the world. This is Paul McGuire. Visit paulmcguire.us.